Okay, greetings everyone who is joining us live or going to watch this record later. I'm very pleased to speak to Clara today because Clara represents Swedish Innovative Circles, and Swedish Innovative ecosystem is one of the most maybe well developed and very sustainable developed. That's why it's very interesting to observe and to discover how actually they're doing this, because they build a lot of unicorns, and they make business sustainable. They're very environment friendly, so it looks like a melting pot of the best thing you can find. Nice view. The weather, for me, it's also nice because I like snow and cold. So if you're going to have any kind of like additional questions, feel free to drop them in comments. But I would like to start from introduction. Obviously, my name is Irina Manakovska. I'm VP of Strategy in Extreme Digital and Java Software Solutions. And today I'm hosting Clara Hellner, who is Director of Research and Innovation at Region Stockholm. And I will pass my word to Clara so she could introduce herself and what she's actually doing in Region Stockholm. Clara, happy to have you today.
Thank you, Irina. It's a pleasure to be here. Well, my job is Region Stockholm is the regional governing board, so to speak, and it's responsible for healthcare, public transportation, and regional development. So there are lots of issues related to innovation and growth and work options and employees and how we're doing and life science is a big sector. Tech is another big sector. And also green production is a big sector, and also environment friendly, as you said, that's a big thing. Also like housing and environment, stuff like that. So my job in the center office of the region is to facilitate innovation in our internal organization, of course, which is mainly healthcare and public transportation. And we also have a small sector supporting culture as well. And then my job is also to be a speaking partner for external partners like SMEs, small companies, big companies, other public organizations, the universities in the region, how we can collaborate to strengthen the innovative climate in Region Stockholm. So we do that in several different ways that we can come back to later. But that's my job, to kind of have the system perspective.
Okay, sounds amazing, because I think the system approach is very important here. And here we're like deep diving in our first questions, because normally innovations, it's different kind of stakeholders. It's not one kind of organization on all the startups. It works as a system. So can you please give a little bit more information how actually this system in terms of Sweden work? I mean, so there are startups, obviously there are institutions, governmental, non-governmental, how they support each other and how actually this system works.
Yeah, it may sound as if the system is perfectly synchronized and everybody knows exactly what they're supposed to do. We don't, but we try to, keep track of each other. So I think there are several aspects of why innovation is strong in Sweden. I think one important aspect is that there's a strong message in my organization, which is the biggest healthcare public provider in Sweden. We have 40,000 employees in the region, of which the majority work in healthcare, is that we need all the good ideas we can get from our employees. So if you're an employee in Region Stockholm, we have an innovation strategy. So there's a communication that says innovation is important. You can apply for funding for new ideas, new projects. You don't have to be a PhD. You can be an assistant nurse and have an excellent idea and apply for money. And then you can get money 1, 2, 3 years, and then you can get continuous grants if you're doing well and if the idea is worth developing. So that's the internal part. There's also external funding in the Swedish innovation system, like there's an research funding agency called Vinnova, which focuses specifically on innovation. Where a lot of our people also apply for funding, of course, together with companies. And then we have some specific EU projects and other type of projects that are more like over a certain amount of time, where we focus on a certain problem area. Like we did a big work a couple of years ago on immaterial property rights. How do we handle that in our organization? And now we have a guidebook for that for both internal and external actors, so that we don't have problems with that once you are, moving towards commercialization of your idea. And then another factor that may be of importance is that in Sweden, if you're a university employee, you own your own ideas. It's not the university that owns your research. You own the rights to your ideas. So we have several researchers who commercialize their products also. And that could be AI algorithms or apps or pharmaceuticals or other products that are used in healthcare, all sorts of stuff.
I think it's amazing because most of the institutions, so if you have like some idea occurs when you are working as a part of this institution, officially it belongs to institution. So it obviously may stop some people to push some kind of ideas just because they would like to push them, but they understand that they won't have any kind of ownership on them. I mean, decision making power, whatever. So they basically even don't know how the idea would be used for good or for bad or for whatever. I think it's very important.
Yes.
And I think you were talking at the beginning about like here every employee, so you don't need own a PhD. You can be a nurse to
Yeah.
obtain for. It's also very important, and it's one of the key successful factors for corporations as well. So those corporations, businesses who push corporate innovation, they also create this kind of like hub to collect ideas, because people, when they're working on a front line with a client or whatever, whomever, they own more information than C-level suit who is sitting in fancy, I don't know, whatever office. And it allows people to actually maybe and even engage more with business specific or with like any kind of institution they're working in. It allows to create more sustainable and full scale understanding how business work, how organization work, how it create an impact on the community. So it's very cool.
Mm. Yeah, and it's the kind of, that's what my job is, to kind of set the culture and really and convey to everybody that we need your ideas. You are important. You have the solutions. You work close to the patients, or you are the ones who work out how the traffic should run in Stockholm, or develop new things for. Like today, you can if you take the subway, you don't need to have a prepaid card. You can use your iPhone to pay, for example. That was developed during the pandemic. So lots of innovation that comes from the employees, and that's a big asset for the region, of course.
Yeah, obviously. And one of the classic examples I read in a lot of books dedicated to behavioral science change. It's an example which you had in Stockholm subway when it was turned, the stairs were turned in a piano to encourage people to use stairs, not an elevator. So it's also one of the examples of this kind of innovative thinking. So you need to encourage some kind of like behavioral change or people to act differently for good,
Yeah.
and you create some kind of like special environment for this.
Yeah. We have another good example, and that's also something that we learned during the pandemic, that we had, like digital care is developing very fast, and we had a group of people who had developed an app for the phone where you can communicate with your doctor or your nurse or your midwife. And this started maybe in 2018, 2019, and it slowly evolved, and some started using it, went like that, and then the pandemic came, and Stockholm was hit very hard in April 2020. It exploded. I think we went from a couple of hundred users to thousands in 2 weeks. And it was developed primarily for primary care, but then everybody started using it. Infections, the infection clinic or the infection ward clinic started communicating with their patients this way, and people couldn't come to the hospital. So it just spread like that, and it has stayed on that level. So after the pandemic, it has, so we really took a big step in our behavior, and staff as well as patients. So, but the key thing was that it was already there when the pandemic hit. If we wouldn't have had time to do it
Develop, yeah.
so you really have to be like, it's just like the vaccines for COVID. They had the technical platforms, the mRNA platforms developed for something else, and then they realized we can use it for developing vaccines. So having this mindset is also very good in a preventive perspective, from a preventive perspective.
And here we're underlining and touching a very important topic that innovations, it's about long-term investments.
Yes.
So you don't understand, you can't predict actually what is going to be next big thing, because no one could predict like COVID pandemic and all other things happen. But if you invest in things that could be crucial and which are literally important, I mean, like digital communication, you understand that there would be time when you will need this, and this innovation can flourish and bring a lot of value and like return of investment, whatever. So that's why maybe it's important to create this kind of like solid fertile soil, so a lot of innovations could occur, because you never know what you are going to need like next year, in 2 years, in 3 years. It's impossible to predict. Yeah.
Yes. And it's very important to set a culture where everybody can raise their hands and say, I have an idea. Maybe we can do like this. So that's also very important. But it's a long-term investment, and it's another asset or another Swedish tradition is that healthcare have many people who work in healthcare also have PhDs. So there's a lot of clinical research going on in the clinic. And that is also very useful. In those parts of healthcare that were very strong in research, clinical research, they also adapted very well to this crisis that came. And they connected digitally with their colleagues all over Sweden and say, oh, this week we learned this. We started giving double dose of anticoagulants this week. That works better. Shuff out, everybody in Sweden knew that. So that's also a very important mindset that needs to be in place before a health crisis occurs, or any other crisis for that matter.
Yeah, but it's maybe also power, like a power of communities. So people feel free to share. They feel the value of sharing of the information, because understand that they will get some kind of feedback on their idea or data or whatever to push this idea forward. And without actually community, it won't be possible. You would be like one isolated person. You don't have any kind of data. You can't validate your idea. So it worked just in general, or it worked in your particular case. It's hard to understand. So yeah, that's why sharing is very important, because a lot of people who are starting their startups, they are afraid to share the ideas. They feel like someone will steal it. But as far as I hear from you and learn from others as experience it, it's not about only the idea, but about implementation of idea, which is much harder than get an idea, because you have an idea to, I don't know, fly to Mars or Venus or I don't know, any planet, but it's impossible. So you need to create, the space and implementation. This is normally the hardest part. That's why like this ecosystem and community are very important, what you're given these examples, because it allows you to make your idea more sustainable, find partners, evolve, whatever.
Yeah. And also, I think it's important that we also fund ideas that we decide not to go, move forward.
Yeah.
That's also a very important finding, that you're allowed to try and test it. And then you may come to the conclusion, no, this was not working as we hoped or as expected. So then we try that, and we know that. And that's also a very important outcome of, providing many people to test their ideas, that those that do not work are just as important, because you always learn something from them.
Yeah, obviously. And here I would like to switch to the next part of our discussion, because I know a lot of startups would like to know this information. So which kind of like innovations or startups or innovative partners you are looking for? I mean, like Sweden. So if I would like to, I don't know, bring my startup to Sweden, find investments, or at least to talk to someone who could give me valuable advice. So what should I do?
Okay, so They can always look at our website and then go to innovation, and because there's more information there, of course. But we have 4 areas that we have identified as like profile strong areas. That's life science, tech, but also sustainable production, like a green car industry or green industry, and also what we call sustainable physical environment, like housing and environment and waste and all those, like
Mhm.
food tech also, of course. But those are the areas. And we need people with tech. We have a shortage of tech people, like developers, and many of companies in Stockholm use people who work from the remote. That's also possible. And also, I think many partners, many areas in Stockholm, you know, there's a shortage of certain competencies. Tech is one, biostatisticians, those kind of people who are needed into, health data, AI. That's a very strong field, of course, all over, but we need those people too. Life science is a strong sector. We have hundreds of small startups in Stockholm, and also the big
Amazing.
companies are here scouting for small startups, of course. But because we have a very strong healthcare, very high quality healthcare, and they kind of work very close to that ecosystem, so that they are part of that ecosystem.
Amazing. And are there any kind of like, I apologize, particular areas in healthcare? Because there are a lot of solutions based on AI now. I mean,
Mhm.
any kind of like patient treatment, communication, suggestions, recommendations. So I think you're talking about some more like deep tech, but in healthcare.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Well, there's a very wide field of development going on. So all those areas you mentioned are, of course, precision medicine is a big thing, of course, developing very fast. And related to that, there's a lot of need for people who can handle big data and develop algorithms and use that big data, of course. But also clinical trials is a big thing, and test new specific pharmaceuticals for
Mhm.
that are individualized, personalized. So that's a big area also. But lots of deep tech, but also many not so deep tech, like small, like we have several, like you mentioned unicorns in the beginning. Some of the unicorns are more tech, like payment solutions, uh, all those things that can be used in the e in e-shopping or
Mhm.
production industry or food industry, or lots of things that can be used in different areas, but they are based on tech solutions. So
Mhm.
that's also a big area where many good ideas have come out of that. And digital health, of course, those things also. We have several companies who kind of make aggregate open data that can be
Mhm.
used for private citizens, those type of things also.
Amazing. And in terms of like startups, what are criteria startup should fit to be interested? I mean, if, for example, I run a startup and it does something available for life science, so what are your evaluation criteria that this fit? I mean, not in terms of like idea, technology, but I don't know, scale. So you're looking for seed, pre-seed, or early investment, like angel investor. So how does it work?
I think all those areas. I mean, in the life science, it's usually a very long. There's a, like, you can
Yeah.
get funding in the beginning, and then you can get funding when you're done. But there's a big valley of death in between. That's a challenge for Stockholm and Sweden as well, of course. But it's on the political agenda, and there are lots of efforts to try to bridge that gap. So if you want to, you can apply for some. There's programs for funding. Then in some of these, you need to have a Swedish partner. In some of these, most of them probably would require that. And then another big thing is that you need to be aware of sustainability, how to address issues of sustainability, gender equality. They usually ask about as well. We try to encourage more female tech CEOs. And there's other countries in Europe that are much better on that than we are, like Ukraine, that I know we will talk about later. There are all sorts of ways forward, and there's not just one solution. It depends on what you want to do. But what we can provide is our program office can try and help with matchmaking and kind of, you can go to here, look at this website. Here's a special program right now for this type of programs. And then many EU grants also require partners from several countries, and many of them also require collaboration with SMEs. And sometimes we have been able to kind of join arms in those type of launches as well. But there are angel and business angels around, and there are big investors around as well. So they are here all the time looking, of course.
Okay, sounds amazing. And in the beginning, you were talking that you're also helping to establish relations between your organization and our organization. I presume it means that you present what actually Region Stockholm is doing. I mean, participate in different kind of conference, giving speech or podcast like this one. So what's and we're running this podcast as a part of the series of podcasts dedicated to Future Summit. It's one of the way to collaborate for Ukraine and Sweden, actually, to exchange knowledge, some ideas, present startups. I know there are going to be 24 very interesting startups from Ukraine presented there. So in terms of participate in different kind of business events. So for you're from research innovation part. So what kind of suggestion you would give maybe for other startups, because it's pretty exhausting. I mean, talking to other people, traveling a lot, and always pushing your ideas and networking. So what's your secret, how you keep your energy balanced? What would be your recommendation to those who only start this difficult path?
Yeah, I think you have, if you are trying to develop a company, you need to put some effort in the beginning to understand the scene, the rules. If you know the rules, you can also know how to move within the framework. So if you're looking for public money, for example, there are always buzzwords like sustainability and gender equality, and you just have to have to deal with that. And then if you are trying to attract other type of private funding, like from angel investors or other types of funds or so, you need to understand what they are looking for. So you need to, we have incubators who help the not so experienced startup people with that at our universities, for example. And then what they convey to me is that you need a lot of help in the beginning to understand that this is not like pitching for a research grant. This is something different. And I think you need to understand the arena and try to do that as soon as you are set. I want to go for commercialization here. Use all these resources that are around to understand what are the best experiences. And that's where the network can come in. That's when listening to others, like other case stories. How did they do? What were their mistakes? That is very, very important. It's important in research, in the academic world, but it's also very important in the innovation scene, but from a little different perspective. And I think, like you said, many may feel that, I'm afraid that my ideas will. You can be afraid in the academic world as well that some fancy professor from somewhere will steal my smart thoughts. But you need to, you can protect your ideas and still learn. And you need to learn how to, the tone of voice in the scene where you are, and how to persuade funders or people who make decisions that they should try you, and that you have to learn, and that's a journey lots of time. But there's lots of help. In Stockholm, we have incubators. We have a tech incubator that is very successful called Sting, and they will be present at the conference. We have a life science or a more pharma or whatever, like medical incubator. And the CEO will also be at the conference. And so there are lots of people around at the conference who knows the ecosystem and can also guide and help. And I was at the first summit in Berlin, and I know there are some startups who still keep in touch with some people in Stockholm, not as many as I hoped, but there's still a few. And you need, if you want to be here and work with the Stockholm and Sweden, we are around to help you do that. And we also know that there will be directed grants to collaboration between Sweden and Ukraine. So the opportunities are out there, and Sweden is very dedicated to engage in and assisting as much as we can in keeping the economy up and running. It's very important to Sweden to do that, and we will be very patient, and it's a long-term commitment from us. So the conference is not just 2 days and then we say goodbye and never hear again, but really try to find people who like each other, who can find ways of working together.
Yeah, I think it's the most important part, that this kind of like stuff related to innovations, it's journey. I like how you put it, because you collect a lot of data, you learn from data. I mean, like observation, talking to people, learning from ideas and case studies of other startups or businesses, and you produce new ideas, you start talking. So it's journey or evolution, if we're talking about like life science or something. And maybe if we're going to treat it this way, we would be less demandful from ourselves, but in a good manner. I mean, so you understand that you can't be sure. You need to test, you need to validate, you need to find a partner to start testing maybe faster. I mean, with real customers or clients or whomever, just to make this thing work. Yeah. That's very important.
And you also need to understand the other perspective. Like if you are an investor and you want to invest in a company, there are some key aspects that you need to consider considering handling your risk. And it's very important, if you want to sell your ideas, that you understand what's important for me as the other part. And that is just as when you do research, you have to explain, why is this important? What's in it for patients? And you have to do that is also if you have a startup, and really try to understand, what does this add to the market? Why is it needed? And so if you have a strong story and a very solid idea and can explain that, it will build trust. And trust is always the key.
Yeah, obviously, in any kind of relationships, trust is crucial. Okay, sounds very amazing. When I was digging more about Swedish ecosystem in terms of innovation, I was surprised. I mean, how many startups Swedish has, and that last year in 2023, 40% of founders were female. So, I mean, it's a lot of amazing job that you're doing there, and it seems like you literally have this secret sauce, like IKEA meatballs. They have the secret sauce, and you also have the secret innovative sauce.
I hope so. But there's more. We need more good people, and we also need ideas from abroad. That's very important for us.
Yeah, exchange is crucial. I think that's why this kind of summit, like Future Summit, are very important, because they allow to this idea exchange in real time. I mean, when people from different perspective, from different part of innovation like ecosystem meet each other, they communicate and they share experience, and it allows to something new to occur. I mean, not only partnerships, but different kind of like business models or whatever. So it's very important.
And it's important also that Ukraine is learning a lot of things at the moment. Cybersecurity, drones, you name it, digital, working remotely, and we in the rest of Europe or in the rest of the world have a lot to learn from those experiences as well. So that's also very important, that this is really a two-way situation.
Yeah, especially now when we have so much like crisis because of climate change. So we literally, yeah, can share a lot. I mean, how to prevent, monitor like drones. It's not only about military tech or defense tech. It's also about like preventing wildfires or monitoring of infrastructure like power lines or pipes or whatever. So yeah, there are a lot of use cases which are born because of the war, but they could make some good in other regions and contribute value to prevent disasters.
Yes, we will need all the experience that they are gaining from a very unfortunate situation, of course, but we can learn a lot.
Yeah, it sounds amazing. Oh, thank you so much for participating in the podcast.
And
And me and Clara, we invite everyone to join us at Future Innovative Summit, which is going to be in Stockholm on February 15 and 16. So you can secure your ticket by using the link in LinkedIn comments. And I was very happy and pleased to host Clara today. I like your scientific approach to what you're doing and how you put in this about innovation. I think it's very important to build it as a system, be consistency, and consider it's like a journey. So thank you so much, and everyone who are joining us live. So see you on the next postcard, and hope to meet you in person in Stockholm in a couple of weeks.
bye bye. Thank you.